And most people can relate to the story of being fired. The uniqueness of my story is that I was fired from my father.
He treated Wynton less than what somebody would do to their pet. You know, and for everybody that keeps telling me, Mary need to just move on.
Steve Harvey just keeps sinking lower and lower as new details are coming out about how he allegedly abandoned his biological kids because they look like him, while worshiping Lori because she looks like Marjorie. Steve's biological children have reportedly struggled their whole lives to get Steve to love and accept them, while he's given Lori everything and more. But if you think that's wrong, wait till you hear how Steve treated his son Wynton from his second marriage to Mary. I knew Steve took Wynton from Mary and tried to turn him against her, but I had no idea that both Steve and Marjorie emotionally and physically harmed Wynton, so much to the point where it left him with permanent trauma. I was honestly sick to my stomach after hearing what happened to Wynton, and you will be too. So let's get into this and break down how Steve Harvey mistreated his own flesh and blood while putting Lori on a pedestal.
They kept me silent and blackmailed me and Mary because you abused Wynton. I would have rather did time in jail if I could not have helped him.
Steve Harvey's family drama has taken a dark turn over these past few weeks, and people have gone from clowning Steve for allegedly getting cheated on by Marjorie to now blasting Steve for being a fake Dad of the Year, and even some saying that he needs to be investigated for what he has done to his son Wynton. Just to give you some context of why many people believe that Marjorie also had a huge part to play in Steve abandoning his kids, let me give you a quick rundown of their shady relationship. So Steve and Marjorie first crossed paths in 1990, and despite already being married, Steve became so fixated on Marjorie that he told her right away he'd marry her one day.
Not the first word I ever said to her was, I don't know who you are, but I'm gonna marry you one day.
At that time, Steve was still married to his first wife, Marcia, with whom he shares 3 kids, twin daughters Brandy and Carly, and son Broderick. However, Steve was reportedly cheating on Marcia left and right, and he walked out on her when she was pregnant with Broderick. Steve refused to have any involvement with the kids for years, and Marcia had to take him to court to get him to pay child support. Meanwhile, Steve had moved in with Mary Shackelford, who was his mistress, and they married in 1996. And looking at the timeline, Steve probably married Mary only because she got pregnant, because just months after the wedding, Mary gave birth to her only child with Steve, son Wynton. And this is where we get to the ugly part, because the way Steve treated Mary and Wynton is beyond vile. Now, I'll be honest, Steve really did a heck of a job trying to paint Mary as bitter, because at one point, I really wondered if she was just being messy because she's jealous of Steve and Marjorie. But honestly, this has nothing to do with Marjorie, and the real reason Mary has been trying so hard for years to expose Steve is because Steve allegedly brutally harmed Wynton and traumatized him for life. Okay, so in 2005, Steve reconnected with Marjorie, who by that point had 2 marriages behind her and 3 kids, daughter Morgan and son Jason from her marriage to drug kingpin John Townsend, and daughter Lori from her marriage to another drug lord, Darnell Woods. Steve was obsessed with Marjorie, and he was ready to do whatever she asked, and what Marjorie asked was for Steve to give his last name to her kids and treat them as his own. Now, there's nothing wrong with Steve adopting Marjorie's kids, and blended families have been around since the dawn of time. But what is wrong is the way that Steve reportedly started treating his own kids as less than just because they didn't come from Marjorie. An insider recently told Radar Online that there's a lot of dissension among Harvey family members because Marjorie rules the roost, and she apparently doesn't want Steve's biological kids to have the same treatment as her own, especially her golden child, Lori. And while many media outlets tried to twist this story, claiming that Steve's biological kids are jealous of Lori, the real truth is that these kids, who are now grown adults, grew up watching their dad give all his love and attention to someone else's kids while ignoring and mistreating them. One person who claimed they went to high school with Steve's twin daughters from his first marriage claimed that Steve didn't even attend the girls' graduation. And as far as Steve's son Broderick, he previously said he only had his dad full-time from age 16. But poor Wynton got the worst treatment. And you guys, for some reason, I feel like Steve and Marjorie were using Wynton to punish Wynton's mom, Mary. And let me give you a trigger warning, because I'm going to be talking about how Steve allegedly brutally beat Wynton when he was just 10, and then continued to emotionally abuse him for years. This is something that Mary has been trying to expose for years, but it was only recently that evidence came out, seemingly proving that Mary was telling the truth about how Steve used corrupt judges and police officers to escape charges. So this incident happened when Wynton was already living with Steve and Marjorie, and one weekend it was Mary's turn to have Wynton with her. But after they dropped him off, Mary got the shock of her life when she saw that little Wynton was severely harmed, and this image still haunts her to this day.
I see it every night before I go to sleep, and it's in my face every morning. And I want to say this for all the people out there that keeps telling me what I need to move on and get over.
Mary explained that this is the reason she never gave up on trying to expose Steve, and while the whole world branded her as bitter and jealous, the only thing she wanted was to get justice for her baby.
Thinking that it has something to do with Steve Harvey, and it does not. He is who he's with. I'm glad he's over there. It's his twin, it's his match. I could care less. But what things that do bind me to that is my baby.
Mind you, the incident took place 2 weeks before Mary saw Wynton, so the fact that Wynton's injuries were still so bad after that much time, well, it's hard to even imagine what he went through. According to Mary, Steve used a belt with a metal buckle and a paddle, and then he stripped Wynton to humiliate him before inflicting horrible pain on this 10-year-old child. Mary took Wynton to the hospital, and when the nurse saw his injuries, she immediately notified the police. And according to Vibe.com, Wynton told the police that his dad beat him so badly that he had trouble using the bathroom for days after the incident. Oh, and by the way, the only reason Steve did this to his own son is because he got a call from Wynton's school that Wynton didn't turn in some paper. But what really got me even more mad was listening to Mary talk about how she was helpless to protect her child because Steve reportedly used his celebrity status to escape prosecution. And one of Mary's friends who was with her when she reported the incident revealed that the same judge who cleared Steve of any wrongdoing blackmailed both her and Mary for years to stop them from talking about this in public.
He was standing there going, oh, this is horrible. You know, how could a father do this? Then the moment he found out who the father was, he turned right around to me and said, do you want to press charges on this? I said, yes. And he said, are you sure you want to do that? And I said, and why shouldn't I not want to do it? And he just kind of looked at me and walked off. So I went down to the police department to get the report that they filled out that night, to put it with the rest of the stuff, to take it to the judge dry at that time, to keep Wynton from going back. The plain old police department would not give me that report. They would not give it to me.
Mary also said that Wynton has never been the same since that incident because he was a sensitive child to begin with, and after his own father humiliated and hurt him, something changed in him.
Because my baby, he was a sensitive little boy, a kind, sweet little boy, and I never put my hands on him in his whole life. And for you to go from that to being brutally beaten, go to your room.
Didn't end there because Mary also revealed that when Wynton was in college, Steve and Marjorie went crazy after they found out Wynton had been talking to his mom, and Steve sent his bodyguards to snatch Wynton from his dorm room in the middle of the night while Marjorie ordered them to break Wynton's phone.
If I call you, you answer your phone. Who you clicking over to? And Wynton said, I'm talking to my mom. And he went into a rage. I could hear him on the phone. Why are you talking to your MF and mother or mama? And what y'all talking about? And they started pulling Wynton's stuff out of that dorm. His clothes. They took his computer. They took his driver's license, social security card. They took his phone, because I heard Marjorie screaming on the phone, telling the bodyguard, take that MF and phone, break that MF. That's what she said. Break that MF and phone. And then everything went dead.
But there are so many more disturbing details about all of this, so if you want to learn more, I encourage you to watch this whole interview with Mary. It honestly made me tear up, and it's beyond me how Steve managed to get away with all of this. And then he wants to push Lori in our faces and brag about being the dad of the year? Like, take a seat. Fans on social media are now dragging Steve and calling him every name in the book, and I'm here for all of it. One fan said, Steve Buckteeth Harvey has snake, untrustworthy, and POS written all over him, and I never thought he was was funny. But that's how it works. The least funny fall upward. And another fan wrote, I've always maintained that the more a person tries to sell themselves as all wholesome and righteous, the more of a demon they are in real life. This is Steve Harvey through and through. Now, if you ask me, I always thought there was something off about Steve Harvey. But after learning about what he did to Mary and Wynton, I cannot stand this man, and I will never support anything he's in. But let me hear your thoughts. Do you think Steve picked Marjorie's kids over his own, and did Marjorie play a role in Steve's alleged abuse of Wynton? Let me know in the comments, and make sure to click on this next video.